This video is brought to you by SoccerPro.com, bringing you all the latest soccer gear at everyday low prices with no membership fees. Don't forget to use coupon code SR4U at checkout for 10% off any order of $75 or more. Hey guys, Josh from SoccerReviewsForYou.com, bringing you a comparison video of the entire Nike Mercurial line. So from left to right, I have the top-end Vapor 9 with a retail price of $225 US, the Mercurial Veloce retailing at $110, the Mercurial Victory 4 with a retail of $70, and of course the Mercurial VORTEX, which retails at $50. The Mercurial line is arguably one of the most popular lines of shoes currently on the market, and everybody is trying to decide which model they want to buy for themselves, whether it be the top-end Vapor or the low-end VORTEX. So in this video, I'm going to go over all the details, give you guys a really in-depth comparison of all four models, let you know exactly what the differences are, and hopefully facilitate your buying decision if you are looking to buy one of these four models. We're going to talk about the uppers, the Soleplate stud patterns, the weight, and then of course at the end of the video we will do an on-feet so you can get a better idea of how each of these models fit. So if you guys could leave a like on the video, it would be greatly appreciated, and we'll get on to the comparison. When it comes to the uppers available on the Nike Mercurial line, this is where you're going to have the most amount of variation when it comes to the top-end models to the low-end models. If you really do want the best touch out of a Mercurial shoe, you're going to get that from the top-end Vapor. This is where you're going to find the thinnest, softest, highest quality synthetic of the bunch, and then as you go down the line from high-end to low-end, each individual synthetic upper gets a little bit thicker, not as soft, and honestly the quality just isn't as good. So the overall feel that you're going to get from the shoe isn't as high quality as what you're going to get from the top-end Vapor. This is also the first time ever that Nike has given us two upper variations available on the Nike Mercurial series. So you can choose to go for the speed control golf ball like dimpled version, which is what I have here. This is kind of a new innovation to the Mercurial series. Or you can choose to go for a more traditional faux leather finish on the upper, which features that kind of fake leather grain on the outside. Keep in mind it is a synthetic, just like the speed control version, just a slightly different finish, so they do give you a little bit of choice as far as which one you like best. They always will make a faux leather finish and a speed control version available when they do launch new colorways, so just keep that in mind. I do have a comparison video between this version of the Vapor and the speed control version, so if you do want to check that out, I will leave an annotation on screen. If we start off with the Vapor, I pretty much already explained it here. You do have a full Tasian synthetic upper, a little bit different from what we saw on the last model, which was the MV8. Slightly thicker, but still has a very close, very thin feel about it, which is something that I'm really a big fan of. And then of course the major talking point is that speed control finish on the outside, which gives the shoe that golf ball-like look. It's designed to enhance your grip on the ball, meaning that you'll have more or less grip depending on the type of touch that you're making on the ball. Honestly, the impact that it has on your touch is not that significant. It is a slightly noticeable difference if compared to the smooth faux leather finish, but for the most part, the touch on the ball is going to be the same no matter which version you have on your foot. It's just a slightly different feel from the speed control finish, and a welcome addition to the Mercurial series in my opinion. Also keep in mind the top-end model does feature ACC all conditions control technology, which is kind of like a wet control element, allows for a little bit better friction between your foot and the ball when playing in wet weather, which again is something cool that they've been including on all their top-end models. And just keep that in mind, it only comes with the top-end Vapor and not with any of the takedowns. The next model in the series is the Veloce, and this also does feature a Tasian synthetic upper, but it is a little bit different in that Nike has put a fairly bulky liner on the inside. If you guys can see it right there, there's actually a very thick black liner, which I'm personally not a big fan of. It really does hinder the overall feel or quality feel of the synthetic in my opinion. And for the most part, the synthetic itself, it is Tasian synthetic, very soft, just like the Vapor 9, perhaps a little bit thicker, and then when you add the thickness of the liner on the inside, to me the shoe would have been a lot better if you just didn't use the liner at all. And then of course you do have that speed control finish on the outside, which is about the same in terms of aggressiveness as what you're going to find on the top-end Vapor 9. The next shoe is of course the Victory 4, one of the most popular low-end shoes currently out there on the market. $70 retail, very affordable, looks really good, but personally I'm not a big fan of the upper on this shoe at all. It features an unspecified synthetic leather material, and this is what I would categorize as a layered synthetic, where you can actually feel all the separate layers in the shoe itself. And I'm personally not a big fan of it. It feels very, very rigid, especially from right out of the box. It will soften up after some break-in time, but instead of like kind of molding to your foot and just moving freely as a soft synthetic, it almost just creases at all the points where it's actually flexing and makes for almost like a very thin cardboard feel on the ball, which I'm personally not a big fan of. It feels nice and thin, but I don't like the amount of flexibility and softness that the upper has to offer. And of course you do have that speed control upper on the outside as well, which isn't as aggressive as what you're going to find on the Veloce and the Vapor, but still does have some effect on your overall touch on the ball. The last shoe in the line is of course the VORTEX. This is kind of the new ultra low end model from Nike. It appears to have some kind of dimpling on the outside, but it is actually a smooth finish, so just keep that in mind. And then the synthetic on here is basically what I would call a mesh based synthetic, where it's pretty much a mesh upper with this kind of vinyl covering on the outside. And it's not a very high quality upper at all. You can see it actually has like a sock-like liner on the back here, which again, it's okay. It's a very, very comfortable shoe, but the quality of the touch that you're going to get is not all that great. But the upper is very, very soft. This is something designed more for recreational players as opposed to competitive players. So if you are going to be putting a lot of time in your soccer shoes, the VORTEX is probably not the best option for you. But that's pretty much it as far as the uppers go. And we're going to move on to the Soleplate and stud patterns on each of these models. When it comes to comparing all four models in terms of their sole plates and stud patterns, you're going to notice that there's actually a pretty big difference between each individual model, which is not only going to impact the way that the shoe feels, but it also can impact the amount of traction and the type of traction you're going to get from each individual model, depending on the stud pattern that it has to offer. As far as the top-end MV9, you know that it has a dual-layer glass fiber sole plate. This is really what gives the shoe its lightweight, low-profile feel, as well as the shoe's rigidity itself. On top, you're going to see you have that plastic plate that sits there, which features all of the studs themselves. This is the firm ground stud pattern. The shoe is also available in a soft ground pro as well as an AG stud pattern designed for different surfaces, of course. I have a video comparing all three models. If you do want to check that out, I'll leave an annotation on screen. But this is what's designed for firm natural grass playing surfaces, and that's really the only surface I would recommend using this particular stud pattern on. As far as the stud pattern itself goes, you're going to notice that there are very few studs considering this is an FG stud pattern. You have basically what is 4 studs in the forefoot with 1 support stud in the middle and only 2 studs under the heel. This is a stud pattern that really requires the shoes to dig into the ground to really offer that great traction, but if you are playing on the proper playing surface, this is one of the best shoes currently on the market in terms of providing really, really solid traction when pushing off and making quick changes of direction. The next shoe I have here is the Mercurial Veloce, which doesn't feature a stud pattern that's too far off from the Nike Mercurial Vapor 9, but the sole plate is completely different. This is a TPU plastic sole plate, which is a little bit on the thinner side in my opinion. You're going to notice that there is this zigzag carbon fiber looking design going through the midfoot and heel. Just keep in mind that is not carbon fiber at all. It's basically just a sticker underneath and is there for show only, has no function to it at all. So it is a full TPU plastic sole plate, so just keep that in mind. The stud pattern itself, you can see you still have your 4 studs in the forefoot, 1 support stud in the middle, and then your 2 heel studs in the back. The studs themselves are not as kind of narrow and aggressive as what you're going to find on the MV9, if you guys can see that. They are a little bit thicker, a little bit longer, and that's just because the sole plate itself, because it is a thin plastic, isn't going to have the same rigidity as that glass fiber. So in an attempt to avoid any kind of stud pressure, they made the studs a little bit less aggressive, but for the most part, the performance is very, very similar. As far as the victory goes, this is where the stud pattern really starts to change. Again, you have a TPU sole plate on there, a little bit thicker than what you're going to get on the Veloce, but for the most part, very, very similar. You still have your 4 studs in the forefoot, as well as your 1 support stud in the middle, exactly what you're going to find on the Veloce as well as the Vapor. And then in the heel, you're going to have 4 studs as opposed to 2, so just keep that in mind. It does change the overall feel of the stud pattern a little bit, but again, for the most part, it still is a very good stud pattern that's going to provide some really solid traction. The Mercurial stud pattern is one of the best ones out there as far as bladed stud patterns go, as far as I'm concerned. The last stud pattern I have here in sole plate is what you're going to find on the VORTEX, and this features, again, a full TPU plastic sole plate on there, but instead of a Mercurial stud pattern, you're going to find a Tiempo stud pattern. So you have your 8 conical studs in the forefoot, 2 bladed support studs in the middle, and then your 4 bladed studs in the heel. Does this feel like a Mercurial stud pattern? Absolutely not. It's exactly what you're going to find on the Tiempo. There's some good flexibility to the sole plate itself, but for the most part, if you're looking for that Mercurial feel, the VORTEX is not the way to go. That's pretty much it as far as the sole plates and stud pattern goes, and we'll move on to a quick weigh-in so you can see what the difference is between each of these shoes as far as their individual weights. In terms of weight, all of these shoes are pretty light. It's pretty easy to just go ahead and look up the listed weights, but I thought it'd be pretty cool to weigh them all in real time so you can see exactly what the actual weights of the shoes are. Keep in mind all of these pairs are used and they are all a size 9 US, all the right foot, so it is a very, very fair comparison. So the first shoe we're going to put here is the Nike Mercurial Vapor 9, and this shoe weighs in at 6.9 ounces, so you can see that is the weight of the Vapor. It is going to be the lightest of the bunch, so just keep that in mind. Sorry to spoil the surprise. Here is the Veloce. This weighs in at 7.75 ounces, so a little bit more than the Vapor, but honestly not by much. Still a very lightweight shoe. We'll throw the Victory on there, and that's going to weigh in at 8.6 ounces, so it is a little bit higher again than the Veloce. And then this one might surprise you a little bit. Here's the Vortex. We're going to throw that on the scale, and this one weighs in at 8.2 ounces. So if you want to compare them, Vapor is the lightest, Veloce second lightest, Vortex third lightest, and then the heaviest one of the bunch is the Victory. Just keep in mind that the overall weight difference between all three of these models is not all that significant. In terms of what's going to feel the lightest in hand and on foot, it's definitely going to be the Vapor. But that's not only because it is the lightest, but it also has the tightest fit of the bunch. But for the most part, you're going to get a lightweight feel from any of these models. Alright, here's a look at the Vapor and Veloce on feet. The Vapor is here on my right foot in pink, and the Veloce is here on my left foot in orange. As far as the Mercurial series goes, it's all about having that tight fit, having that very close barefoot feel, and you definitely get that from both of these shoes in terms of the quality of the fit. They both have very narrow cuts about them, so if you are a wider footed player, I would recommend staying away. And for the most part, the Vapor is going to have the tightest fit of the two models. It's probably the tightest, best fitting thin synthetic soccer shoe currently out there on the market, whereas the Veloce has a slightly boxier forefoot and toe box area. But again, for the most part, I would only recommend these for regular to narrow footed players. And if you do have a wider feet, this is definitely two models that are not going to work for you. As far as sizing goes, they definitely both fit true to size. I'm wearing my usual size 9 US in both models, and the fit in the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair for yourself, I strongly recommend going true to size, whether you go with the Vapor or the Veloce. Alright, here's a look at the Victory and the Vortex on feet. The Victory is in pink on my right foot, and the Vortex is in orange on my left foot. As far as the fit on both of these shoes, the Vortex and the Victory definitely have slightly different fits than what you're going to get in the Vapor and the Veloce. As far as the Victory, it definitely has a slightly narrower cut as well. So again, probably not the best model for wider footed players. Not too wide through the midfoot, but definitely has the most boxy toe box and forefoot area of the bunch. But again, if you do have wider feet, I would probably stay away from the Mercurial line altogether. And if we move on to the Vortex itself, this is definitely going to be the widest fitting model of the bunch in the Mercurial series. And it's the only upper that actually is going to have a little bit of stretch to it because it is mesh based. So it might feel a little bit tight at first, but it will have some stretch to it once you give it some break-in time. And you can see it's definitely not an overly narrow fitting shoe, but again, you don't expect that from a low-end soccer shoe. As far as sizing goes, both of these models definitely do fit true to size. So if you are looking to order a pair for yourself, I strongly recommend going with your regular size to get the best possible fit. But that's pretty much it as far as the on-feet portion of this video goes, and we'll move on to my final thoughts. Alright guys, that's it for my comparison video of the entire Nike Mercurial line. I think it's pretty safe to say that the Vapor is by far the best model of the bunch, but the takedown models aren't all that bad either. I just urge you that if you are looking to buy a takedown model, just make sure that you look at all of the options available in the same price range, because I really do feel like you can get a better quality shoe for the same price as some of the takedown models in the Mercurial line. If you would like more information on how each of these models fits, feels, and performs, you will find direct links down below in the description to all 4 review pages, where you will find full reviews, high quality images, as well as buy it now links with the best prices online, including some exclusive SR4U coupon codes to get you guys some additional discounts if you are interested in ordering a pair for yourself. The full review for the Vapors have already been posted, while the reviews for the takedown models are still currently in progress, but I'm hoping to have those up in the next week or so. If you do have any questions regarding any of the models in this particular video, be sure to leave a question down below in the comments, and if you guys could leave a like as well, it would be greatly appreciated. If you did enjoy today's video and you would like to see more content from me, be sure to hit that subscribe button for daily videos on all the latest soccer gear, such as unboxing on feet, reviews, comparisons, free kicks, tutorials. If you're into soccer gear at all, you're going to love this channel, so be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done so already. Other than that, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video, and as always, thanks for watching.